I had no business driving a really amazing Lexus when I made, $65,000 a year. It was probably a $55,000 car. I made mistakes in the past where in my very serious debt days, I took a loan out of my 401k in order to pay for a tattoo. I think I needed to really hit a rock bottom in every sense of the words and realize wow, I really need help.
My name's Jessica Patel. With more than 20 years in personal finance, I'm thrilled to share the real stories of our guest journeys with money, careers, and building the life they want.
Hi, welcome to the new episode of Life in Progress. I'm Jessica Patel, and I am here with Heather Peggs. Heather has come to us through our Million Stories host, George Igo, from George Goes Everywhere. Heather is here to talk with us about her debt journey. And again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica. Thank you.
Of course. And for me, I think part of working at the Singleton Foundation and working with financial literacy is the mental health portion of understanding debt and how stressful it is and what that feels like. So I would love to start, just kind of going back to the beginning of how you wound up in debt and where kind of it started.
Yeah, I think it kind of started from the beginning. I think how you're raised is so important. And I feel like my parents, they did the best with what the tools that they had, and so I don't hold anything against them. I learned so much from their struggles. And then they eventually got divorced over money. They both had, money problems. And now I'm at the point now where I actually took over my mom's finances and I'm the one that's the responsible one. So I'm kind of like her parent in every step of the way. I'm her power of attorney. I'm her legal guardian, and I do all of her finances just to make sure. And I keep her on a tight leash. so she doesn't have any problems like how it has been in the past. So yeah. I feel like if I would have learned in school, how to deal with money, how to deal with credit, learning how to use credit cards properly, learning about 401k, everything. I wish I could have learned it in school because I didn't have anybody teach me. So I learned the hard way.
Yeah. I think that's how it happens with a lot of us, because for me, it was a similar thing with my family. And, we never realized that we didn't have until all of a sudden it was like, uh-oh, now what? And you see how much that can affect you later in life, right?
Yeah.
And when did you really find out that you were kind of when you were first working, right? When did you start realizing this might be an issue?
I think when I was working in the music industry, I moved out here from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania when I was 20. And I feel like being in LA for the first bunch of years, it was kind of like my college experience. I worked for K-Rock Radio, and it was a very crazy rock and roll lifestyle. I went from K-Rock to Atlantic Records, and I worked all jobs in the music industry. And I feel like I needed to try to keep up with the Joneses. So, I had a car that was probably the same amount of money I was making a year, and I feel like I was car poor,
Yeah.
And I had no business driving, a really amazing Lexus when I made, $65,000 a year. It was probably a $55,000 car, I had no business doing that, but I did just because I wanted to impress people.
And now when you had the car, were you doing something where, when everyone else could go out, you would go out too, and you'd be spending like crazy, whatever restaurants and those kinds of things? Yeah.
I mean, eating out, having the designer purse, all the things, just to look look the part in LA,
you fit in and you were there, and okay.
So it starts there and it just kind of gets, worse and worse. And, and then you're at a point, I think I needed to really hit a rock bottom in every sense of the word. So in 2009 is kind of when I took a step back and realized wow, I really need help. And I got let go of a high paying job. So I kind of had to start from ground zero. And I had so much debt with credit cards, with the IRS, and I just felt underwater. I was so depressed and so much anxiety every single day. And I mean, I don't wish that upon anybody, I didn't know how I was going to come through it. But you just kind of have to start from the bottom. And I learned so much from that, and now I'm obsessed, and it's like my mission to help others to try to get out of debt and how to raise their credit score and how to teach people that credit score is it's like your report card for your life, and you have to have a good credit score in order to get all the things,
And one of those things that you were mentioning was that idea of there was just debt everywhere, and you kind of had to start from scratch and rebuild.
Yeah.
How did you start start that path to rebuilding?
Well, I did have to get rid of the car eventually, which was a good thing.
Yeah.
But I was in such bad debt, and my credit score was so bad that I couldn't even get a used Prius. It was so bad, where I went from, driving this really amazing Lexus, and then trying to get a used car and try to be responsible, but with my credit score being in like 500 range, you can't get a new lease, or you can't even buy a car. So I had to get a co-signer, and I ended up being underwater with that car. Like you end up owing more than the car's worth.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, how is this possible?
Yeah.
So it kind of got worse before it got better.
Mm-hmm.
But once I got out of that situation, then I started tackling the debt. And I think it's good to tackle one thing at a time and just kind of focus, and one day at a time, one step at a time with everything.
Yeah.
The IRS thing was very stressful because it's the government coming after you. And so I think that was like the highest anxiety is, knowing, I have an accountant. She's like, this is serious. We got to tackle this. So I figured out a payment plan with them, and I tried to pay down as much as I could. I tried to pay way more than the payment plan. I had like a $400 a month payment plan with them, and that was probably one of the best days of my life, was doing that final payment. I felt so proud of myself. You don't have to stay in debt just because you grew up in debt. You can change it, and then now I can help others try to change their life as well.
Yeah. And I know that you said at the beginning about how you've taken over your mom's finances. Mm-hmm. How is navigating that? Because I think especially now, as everyone gets older, we have this sandwich generation of sorts, right? And that card has flipped, right? Where you grew up in a place where there wasn't financial stability, and now you are so financially stable, so you've learned that lesson, but now you're navigating it again for your mom, in this new chapter. How does that work for you?
I have learned so much with taking over my mom's finances, because she's in an assisted living facility, and it costs about $4,000 a month, and that's more than what she has. So I have to take the money that she has. I went into my Chase Bank, and I have meetings with them. And I think that's something I wish I would have done before too. I don't think you need to have, a big handful of money in order to talk to your bank representative. Like, they want to help you at every stage of your life. And now when I go in, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud to see, I have a high yield savings account. I did a lot of investing with bonds for my mom's money, because I wanted to be safe, but also grow.
Yeah.
Everything is sorted as far as like, we already paid for her funeral, so I don't have to deal with that later.
Oh, wow.
We already, got the plot. Like, all the stuff is tied up nicely so that I don't have to worry about that later on. So it's really good. I'm in a great spot now, and I wake up every day just so blessed and so excited that I came through that, and I love to be a walking example of what can happen if you work hard to get out of debt and learn what to do now.
We have our spin the wheel to talk about something financially. So you could kind of just take your little spin here, and then we'll see, Your best and worst money habit.
Trying to pay off my credit card bills before they're even due. Because then, you know exactly where you stand. I like to spend it, and then I know what I spent, and then, see how much I have left in my checking account, so I just constantly pay it down, and then it keeps your credit utilization way down, and it keeps your credit score high.
Awesome. Okay.
And worst money advice, don't take out money out of your 401k for something other than, like a life-changing event.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't
take
it out.
A tattoo is a little life-changing sometimes,
It was
right?
cool. She put it in her book, her Kat Von D book,
wow, yeah.
She's beautiful, and it's great. I had a cat for 19 years, and she was wonderful. So, I don't regret that, but I know now not to do that. And no more. My tattoo phase is over as well, so I got that out of my system.